there, everyone. We apologize for the brief week absence, but we are back now here on the podcast. My name is Krona, and I'm unfortunately not the only Krona on this episode tonight, but we'll get into that more later. Cygnus, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. I'm Cygnus, and it is my first time co-hosting here on the podcast. I've been around in the CCA for a while, having been the founder of Hofstra University's Splatoon scene, and now here I am as an alumni, a new CCA staff member, and very excited to be here with you co-hosting this podcast.
Indeed, we're happy to have you. Cygnus has been helping with scripting these last few weeks, and it's finally his chance to get onto the mic. We're very excited to again bring you back to the podcast. Again, we're sorry for our brief break last week, but we're very excited to continue with our tradition of going through the weekly league updates. Just as a quick overview of this episode, we are obviously going to start with some CC announcements. We're then going to recap some of the pivotal matches that happened during week 3, and kind of point out some stuff that you really should keep your eye on as the regular season almost comes to an end here. We're then going to interview Korona beer from Red Emberz, who just so happened to finally play their first league match 3 weeks into the season. That's going to be a lovely interview. We have a lot to talk about their performance last season and how far they will go this season. And then we will finish the episode with previewing some of the most important and pivotal matches upcoming in week 4. So without further ado, let's increase the counter and let's get started with our CCA announcements. Oh god, Frosty is definitely going to yell at me in the staff channels if I butcher this. I really need to get my accent right. But and now for some unfortunate news. At least one of you will be leaving Master Chef. To submit your recipes to the CCA Tailgate Cookbook, chump change, that is. Remember, the submission form for recipes closes at the end of week 4. The home cook who submitted the submitted recipes will be receiving a huge advantage in their dishes showcased by the CCA community before the division finals. Well, off you go. He specifically gave me the directions to that it was imperative to say that as close to Gordon Ramsay as I could. With the British accent, so I hope I did you justice there, Frosty. But in all seriousness, if you are interested in submitting to the this season's version of the Tailgate Cookbook, feel free to go to the forum and submit your recipes. All recipes need to be under $20 this season, and Frosty's hoping to get this all compiled before the division playoffs once again. So if you haven't done so, go do that. So now that we're done with Cookbook, let's move on to some fantasy updates.
Fantasy scores for week 3 are up, and this week's best player was your favorite, Omazen. He was the only player to have all his picks win their matches this week. This earned him 49 points and skyrocketed him 26 spots from 32nd last week to 6th this week overall. Will he keep up the momentum as we enter the second half of the regular season? Only time will tell.
Tiny bit self-indulgent there, Omazen. But congrats on making that huge jump from nearly the bottom pile. But yeah, if you haven't been looking so already, Snow has been updating the fantasy bi-weekly, so it's always fun to see how your teams are doing. I know myself, I'm basically at the bottom because most of my teams have rescheduled their first couple matches. So yay! Looking forward to the point jump and rescheduled weekend. Cygnus, would you like to take coverage of the Purdue land?
Yes, definitely. So, 2 weekends ago, Splatoon at Purdue held its 3rd consecutive Collegiate Invitational, the first ever to be sponsored by MSI. 9 collegiate teams from 4 different universities participated, including Michigan State, Ohio State, Middle Tennessee State, and of course, Purdue. And it was Michigan State's Papa's Scudaria who placed first in the event after a climactic set against Purdue's Boilermaker Special. And Purdue's We Aquatic Little Creatures also placed 3rd after a shocking upset victory against Middle Tennessee State's Skyfall.
No, Purdue was, I believe, the first of the big lands to happen for the collegiate stuff. And it's very exciting to see such great teams and turn out at the Purdue land this year. Speaking about the Purdue lands, if you haven't done so already, the podcast, and more specifically Omazen, was able to interview some of the teams and players there for mini podcast interviews. Two interviews were conducted, with the first one being with MTSU Skyfall, which is currently on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't done so already and you're very curious about hearing coverage on this exclusive Div 1 team, please go give it a watch. It's an absolutely fantastic interview and probably one of the best we've ever put the podcast name to. As he said, another interview is currently in the editing room, so be on the lookout for that sometime in the near future. So that concludes our coverage of the CCA announcements. Not too much going on, mainly just kind of the normal stuff, but I'm sure there'll be more to come as the weeks get a little bit, as the regular season starts to wrap up here. Speaking of the regular season, let's shift to discussing week 3. So week 3 was a very competitive week of matches throughout the entire CCA. There's a lot of pivotal Game 7s, Game 6s, and Game 5s. So now we're starting to see teams really start to get into their groove for the regular season, and group standings are actually starting to be more of a factor. And you're starting to see those playoff teams and potential playoff teams start to shine in their groups. So as for normal, what we're going to do is we're going to go from the lowest division to the highest division, talk about a few key matches, and give some just proper score updates across the board. So let us get the division blitz ready here. So, Cygnus, would you like to give us a division blitz for Division 6?
Yes. So starting off here in Division 6, we have the Buccaneers of the Carrageen, who won their set 4-1 over the Tentamissile Crisis. And the Disciples of COD won 4-0 over Deep Sea Terrors. And Gator Eats Squid took home the victory with a nice 4-0 win over Ferris State Splatoon. Now turning it back to you, Krona, for our key match of Division 6.
Yes, indeed. So for this week, we've highlighted the key match of DePaul's Anarcho-Ciliism and Bradley's Let's Get Kraken. This was a sweep on the behalf of Anarcho-Ciliism, who actually played their first game of the season against Bradley's second team here. As you remember, all the Division 6 groups have 5 teams in there, such that every team has a bye one of the weeks. And I believe that was a factor in why Anarcho-Ciliism is playing their first game here in week 3. So this is a great first start for them for the season, and it could possibly lead to a strong contender for a playoff run later down the line. As we kind of talking to DePaul a few episodes ago, it's always very good to see DePaul continue to push forward in their teams' divisions and such. So fantastic work from the Division 6 group. So let's move on to Division 5, where I will be giving the Division Blitz. So starting the blitz here, we have the Table Troop winning 4-1 over Splat Scad Yellow. The Troop has tightened their playoff race as they get closer, as they contest Splat Scad's position for one of the leads in their group. So they're making progress and getting to a playoff spot here. In another group, we have the Undertow Dartfish taking it to a Game 7 against Shug Splatoon and winning. This is a great bounce back for Undertow Dartfish, who previously lost their previous Game 7 of the season against Ivory in Week 1. Wrapping up the Blitz, we have MS&T Splatoon Golds winning 4-2 over the Stevens Executioners. It's very good to see Splatoon Gold continuing the stride forwards they've seen since their progress in Division 6 last season, and this speaks to some great quality matches and some continuous growth. So that was our Blitz for Division 5. Cygnus, would you like to talk about our key match?
Yes, so our key match for Division 5 in Week 3 was a set between Cosmo Nautilus and A-State Black, which was won by Cosmo Nautilus by a score of 4-3, going the full distance to Game 7. It's very exciting to see A-State Black playing in such competitive matches after they had a bit of a rough go in Division 3 back in Season 4. And this win allowed Cosmonautilus to jump up ahead of a State Black, making the competition for playoff spots all the more interesting here in Group 1 of Division 5. And while the first playoff spot already seems to be well in the hands of the Clark Coy from Clark University, both of these teams, plus a few others, are still fighting for that second spot.
Div
Next
5
up,
is always... Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, you go. No, you can go. It's all good.
I was going to say, Div 5 is always very interesting to see because there's always so many competitive matches. And, you know, this match against Cosmonautilus and AC Black is certainly one of them. So Div 5, you're continuing
Yeah.
my expectations of always being one of my favorite divisions to watch throughout the regular season. Continue.
Yeah, next up, we're going into Division 4, where we're starting off with the Division Blitz, which I'm going to be doing here. And starting us off, we have UGA Red winning a 7-game set 4-3 over the Casual Conches. So here we see the previous Division 6 champs clutching up with the Game 7 victory against the team from MSU. And meanwhile, Blatscad Orange team won 4-2 over Bonefish Bay, and Farm took their own game 4-3 victory over Siberian Squids from Yukon. Bring it over to you, Krona, for our key match of Division 4.
Yes. Our key match from this week was specifically a rematch from last season. That being C# Majors versus the Tentacoolers. So both these teams were in the same group last season, where Tentacoolers won their match 4-2. However, it seems that this time C# was able to pull off a clean 4-2 sweep against the Tentacoolers. This was C#'s first match of the season, having 2 weeks of previous reschedules at this point, and they are now playing catch-up behind the other WPI team as that team has continued to dominate their group. So C# has a lot of games left for them for the regular season, but starting off with the clean sweep against the Tentacoolers is a great sight for things yet to come. So again, some great stuff from Division 4. Moving up the totem pole, let's go to Division 3, where I will be giving Division Blitz. So we previously mentioned the other Bradley team. Let's talk about their varsity team here with Bradley Drim winning with a clean sweep over Griffink. This is a great match to see, as both these teams are Division 3 veterans. Both of them competing in Division 3 last season. So great stuff to see from both of them. You then have Berkeley's Egg Spaghetti winning 4-1 over DPU Eek2. And then finally you have UGA Black winning 4-1 against Crimson Eek. So some fantastic matches from teams that are a bit new to Division 3 in the case of these last two. So Cygnus, would you like to take the key match here?
Yes, definitely. Our Division 3 key match is Coyotes Black winning 4-3 over PU Bash. This was a big win for Coyotes Black after a very close match between two teams that are close together in the standings as well. And Coyotes Black's win here keeps them in the playoff hunt as we head into to week 4, where things are only going to get all the more intense. On the other hand, this was a tough loss for Bash, especially as they have yet to face the top two teams in the group. So Bash will need a strong finish to try to secure their 4th straight playoff berth here in the CCA. These two teams are currently chasing down CSULB Black for the 2nd seed in the group. So this will definitely make for an interesting playoff race down the stretch.
Indeed. It's good to see Coyotes Black coming in strong this season. This is their first season, if I'm correct. So to win in the Game 7 against an established collegiate program, or like one of the most established collegiate programs, that being Purdue, is always interesting to see. So some very exciting things happen here, and it's getting me excited to see just how things will develop. So would you like to move us on to Division 2, Cygnus?
Yes, definitely. Starting off our Division Blitz for for Division 2 here, we have MSU's for Necrillion winning an intense 4-3 set over Creamed Corn, and the Stevens Executioners won 4-2 over Death Roll, with Stevens pulling off an impressive victory over the team that finished 3rd place in Division 3 last season. And also, Seminole Cephalopods Garnet won their set 4-2 over the Titans of Alterna Orange, with Garnet proving that they can handle the Division 2 crowd with an impressive win over Titans of Alterna, who have been a staple team here in Div 2. Now moving... Yes, definitely. And moving up to our first of 2 key matches that we have here in Division 2, we have Aquatic Little Creatures, better known as Walk, from Purdue University, winning 4-1 over Berkeley's California Rollers. And after having a rough go at it in week 1, Walk was able to score big with a victory over California Rollers, who's one of the top teams in their group. And this victory now paves the path for Walk to have a possible playoff run in Division 2, which is very exciting to see. This team has been a lot of fun so far. And as for California Rollers, this does force them into a bit of a do-or-die situation, as they are coming face-to-face with the Splatlanders next week, and the Splatlanders have been having a very good run of their own, currently being the top dog in their group.
Yes. Group 1 in Division 2 has especially been very interesting to watch this season. I know in previous few episodes, I was a believer in the Division 2 Group 2 Circle of Suck a historical record thing. But given the fact that group really hasn't played much matches, all the action has been happening in Group 1. And Walk winning over the California Rollers further just complicates things here. So this is a great victory to see and a great storyline match to see how that entire group shakes up later down the line here. Moving on to our second key match, we are discussing a UCSD Esports Navy winning 4-1 over the Husky Splatsville Knights Violet. So Navy had to bounce back from a rough game 7 loss last week to Creamed Corn, and now they win in a dominant fashion against one of their group's top dogs. So it's really good to see Navy bouncing back after this rough loss, and we actually reached out to Buka, Navy's captain, to hear what they actually had to say about that match. They replied with thus. UCSD Esports Navy against Husky Splatsville Knights Violence went very well. It reminded us again of the importance of being communicative, calm, collective when going against our opponents. We look forward to playing against Florida Necrillion, although we had to unfortunately reschedule, as well as the rest of our opponents. Most of all, we want to keep having fun in playing our best. So some lovely perspective there from Navy. So as for the Huskies here, they're now in a rough spot, needing to basically win against Creamed Corn in week 5 to ensure a possible playoff run. So very good stuff coming out of here from Group 3 in Division 2. Moving on to Division 1, let us go through the Division Blitz. So we first have Red Emberz finally playing the first match of the season with a clean sweep over University of Texas at Dawson's Comet Blasters. So it's great to see Red Emberz, the top seed in this league season, finally getting some action. We then have PS Blue sweeping over the GMU Patriots. So with some previous shakiness from the defending Div 1 champions, it's very good to see them taking a clean sweep against GMU and not letting GMU get to their favorite pivotal Game 7 opportunity. Speaking of another sweep, we have the VCU Big Fat Sea Cow sweeping over the IBC Diamond Ranks. VCU has continued to show their absolute dominance this season, having not dropped a single game. We do have to ask, is this finally their chance for a playoff run this season? So some interesting stuff coming out of the Blitz here. Cygnus, would you like to cover our pivotal match?
Yes, definitely. Here in Division 1, on the big stage, we have CSU LB Gold winning 4-1 over Skyfall. As we see CSU LB Gold bouncing back from their from their loss in week 1 with what is just a massive win over Skyfall. This puts CSULB on the board in what's shaping up to be a very competitive group, despite the many reschedules that this group has been facing. And we're seeing Skyfall now sitting with a 1-1 record as they're looking forward to their upcoming matches in their push for the playoffs here in Division 1. And this added match context just doesn't really speak that well for Skyfall's chances against the Night Sharks, who swept CSULB Gold in Week 1. That's definitely going to be something to look out for. After all, as the playoff race gets deeper and deeper, only time will tell.
Indeed. Yeah, no, there's definitely been Group 1 and Div 1 has definitely not seen a ton of matches happening yet. So any chance you have to look at how these teams may stack against each other is very critical to see. Moving on from our key match in Division 1, let's go look at the power rankings for Week 3 in Division 1. So after 3 weeks of matches, the power rankings are thus. We have UCSD staying in first with yet another sweep over Drexel. We then have PSU keeping their tight spot in Division 2 with a dominant sweep against GMU. VCU has then jumped up from last week with their continuing their pace and not dropping a single game thus far this season. New to the leaderboard is Red Emberz, who finally played a match this season and now needs to play some catch up with some of the other teams further above them. And then coming back from a rough Week 1, Banana Split is back in the hunt with the powerhouse teams, completely shutting out Nightfall in Group 3. Notably, Night Sharks and OUA sit just outside the rankings, and they're waiting for their chance to strike and to get into this top 5. So, a lot of familiar faces and a lot of predicted teams to make the power ranking board, but, there's still a lot of time left in the regular season to see how things properly shake up. So, Cygnus, anything you want to comment on the power rankings here?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say, these last couple weeks heading as we head towards the playoffs is always just the most exciting part of the CCA season to me, as we just see teams laying it all out on the line, fighting for their chance to make the playoffs. And as you said, with Night Sharks and OUA sitting just outside the top 5, the field is feeling pretty wide open, even with UCSD Gold and PSU Blue sitting at the top. There are just a lot of really good teams here in Division 1.
Indeed. I think next week, or maybe the week after, I definitely want to start to look at some of how the playoff eligibilities are shaping up. Because fun facts for y'all not in the know, UCSD has basically already clinched a spot, having swept their first 3 matches, and then with Coastal Squid Surveying having dropped, they're now 4-0, so they're very much guaranteed the top spot in their group now for playoffs. So as I mentioned a few times, regular season is actually starting to get on the starting to wrap up here. So we need to start looking to the bigger pictures and fighting both the teams that are guaranteed to move on in the pivotal matches that will determine those for all of the groups. So some fascinating stuff happening from Week 3, a great week of the league. So with our recap done, let's shift over to interviewing Red Emberz. So welcome Korona Beer to the podcast stage.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate being here and appreciate you interviewing me.
Yeah, no, we're really glad to have you here. Red Emberz has very much been a name that's been thrown around here a lot in Season 5 and a lot at the end of Season 4. So the chance to kind of interview, ask them some questions is a great opportunity. So to all of you in the crowd here, let me give you a short introduction to Red Emberz. So Red Emberz is very much a common household CCA name at this point. However, it's very easy to forget how they started out last season. Red Emberz is ISU's second form team, with them being a brand new team in CCA League Season 4. And you could argue they definitely had some growing pains there at the start of the regular season. They found themselves caught in 2 Game 7 matches back-to-back, and are historically the only CCA team in history to make playoffs despite having a loser record, that being 2-3 from last season. Despite this record and despite some of these pains, Red Emberz was very much able to adapt and had a very strong showing in playoffs, winning what some claim to be one of the greatest CCA matches ever played with their 5-3 victory over UCSD Esports Gold in quarterfinals, taking a few games off the eventual division champion with their semifinals match against PSU Blue, and then having a very dominant win over Banana Split for third place, who previously gave them trouble during the regular season. So they are now back here in Season 5 as your the top seed in the entire league. So having had their first 2 weeks of matches been rescheduled, Red Emberz finally plays their first game this week and swept Comet Blasters. They now are leading Division 1 Group 1. So welcome Red Emberz and welcome Korona Beer.
Thank you.
Yes. So now, before we even get to some of the specifics and talking about Red Emberz place here in the CCA, I have to ask kind of a personal question. In that you also share the same name I have, that being Krona, and I've gone on record to kind of discuss how I came to this name. So, I'm really curious to kind of hear your end of the story. So how and when did you adapt the name Korona Beer?
All right, so I'll start by saying I am terrible when it comes to names. So I'm gonna name drop here, but for the longest time, like Splatoon 1 and probably into Splatoon 2 a little bit, I just used my first name, Steven. And that was all. And then I don't know why I picked this name, but again, very bad with names. Like 2018 to probably towards COVID, it was McNugget. Don't ask me why, it just was. But the name Korona Beer came around technically not through Splatoon, and it's just a very stupid reason, guys. I was playing this multiplayer game on Steam. It's called SCP Secret Laboratory. It's a ripoff. It's basically multiplayer for Containment Breach. I don't know if any of you are fans out there, but probably not. But there was this guy in the lobby. His name was Corona Filled Milk. And I was like, I'm gonna yoink and twist that. So I did, and I yoinked and twisted it to Corona Filled Beer, and then I took the filled out maybe like a year or so later, and then I was like, the C looks ugly, and I changed it to a K, and that is how it happened. There's the lore there. So I bet you weren't expecting that.
Very much of a rich history there, and very funny that a very similar sentiment I had with going by my first name for some time there in Splatoon as well. But yeah, it is very curious to see how we ended up on basically the same name, with you just having an extra O in there. But continuing on to actually discussing Splatoon, collegiate Splatoon, Cygnus, would you like to have the next question for Korona?
Yes, as we mentioned earlier here on the podcast, the Purdue 2024 Invitational was held a few weeks back, and this was the first LAN event to host teams from 4 different colleges across the Midwest. Beyond just being a competitive collegiate LAN, this was also a way for us to help celebrate collegiate Splatoon as a whole and show all these universities what our scene is capable of. There were several visitors who spectated, and one of them being you, Korona Beer, and you were also able to work your way into being a commentator for this event. So I want to ask, just what was it like being able to attend this invitation, and even commentate?
So I'll start by putting myself under the bus a little bit here, because of course we're really close to Purdue compared to Middle Tennessee and Michigan State, with only being 2.5 hours here. So we did think about going as a team here, but I kind of, for lack of a better word, trolled and didn't sign us up. Luckily enough, people had stuff to do on Saturdays, so that's why the whole squad wasn't there. But beforehand there was a want there, and so I guess I kind of trolled there. To get back to your question, I really went because I felt like I wanted, honestly, to get my name out there a little bit more, because you see, I think it's kind of like the other teams that went as well, where like Skyfall is coming from a long way, but they just wanted to play. Some of it was I just wanted to meet new people in the scene. I met a lot of people from Purdue, as well as the teams that were there. Middle Tennessee, Ohio State, right? I think brought a team, if I'm not forgetting. And then Michigan State brought that team as well. So it's a little bit of meeting new people, but also really watching what the scene's doing. And then sprinkle a little bit of I got to see what the heck does Skyfall play. That is legitimately something I looked at. I had no clue what they played. So hi guys, I know what you play now. We're a little bit more prepped now.
Yeah,
Doing some scouting.
they're definitely a
for that
fun
future
team.
match, eh?
For sure.
Yeah, no, that's great. I obviously wasn't there, but you were there. Omazen was there, and the stories from I heard that Purdue, the 2024 Invitational, was a great success and a great bonding and community building experience for all the teams and universities that participated. So let's focus a little bit more on ISU's program, the start of Emberz. So those of you who are new to following the CCA this academic year, you might be surprised to hear that Red Emberz was not the first formed team from ISU to compete in the CCA League. That title would go to ISU's first CCA team, which was Red Beak Splatoon, who got 4th in Division 5 in their debut season, that being Season 3, and who more famously had that 7 a.m. semifinals match against Coastal Squid Surf.
Yeah.
So, Krona, we were hoping you could talk a little bit about your introduction to the Splatoon program at ISU, and tell us a little bit about how Red Emberz came to be.
So really, it's kind of all thanks to our leadership. So I'll start by saying, for some of the schools out there, like Purdue, the school actually endorses Splatoon as an esport, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, does give some funding and really sees it as like a competitive esport. Illinois State is a little different. We're still a club here. So I guess it's unfortunate, but nonetheless, we still get to play, and that's all that matters here. So, but going back to your question, how was Red Emberz created? It was all thanks to our leadership team and what I like to call a lot of luck. If you want to build a Div 1 team, you gotta have a lot of luck here. And what I mean by that is, well, first, thanks to Cliff, who's on Red Emberz, and then Aiden and Salt Maltham, who are on Red Beak right now, or I believe Salt Maltham is on the sideline right now. But nonetheless, that is our leadership team here at Illinois State. They've helped a lot, and that's actually got us intrigued because most of us on Red Emberz, this is our first year at Illinois State, and we're transfer students. So I transferred this year, Zolo transferred this year. I believe Love Trial, they keep changing names. Love Trial, Taro, Vod, whatever you know them by. Our cracked backliner transferred in this year. So a lot of it is we just got, that's the luck of it there. So really you have that, but our leadership team really brought it in and got us to come to the club. We came to the club and really tryouts, of course, and they were pretty ecstatic, of course. I thought it was pretty interesting at the time. I actually had to miss tryouts, the tryouts that we had, and so filled out the form and everything, and well, they just slapped me on the team. I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't try out though. Came to learn that it was meant to be. So, and really through that form, actually, funny enough, the only reason I'm captain is because I'm the only guy who checked off I'm okay with being captain on our tryout form. So I've embraced it. Zola's been helping me a little bit here, finding scrims. Shout out to him. But nonetheless, it was a lot of luck. I'm gonna be honest with you. It was a lot of luck.
All good. That is a common story here with some of the collegiate teams, that you just so happen to find some, mid-level, top-level players that just go to your college and you build from there. But even with that luck, Red Emberz had such a pivotal experience, both on the Season 4 of the CCA as a whole and both at ISU. As you mentioned, Red Emberz is a brand new team in Season 4. You had some growing pains at the start. Yet again, it's regardless of these, things really seem to click for you for your playoff run, with you finishing 3rd in the entire in the Division 1 last season. So Season 4 was very much a pivotal moment for both Red Emberz and for the larger program at ISU, presumably. So I was hoping you could talk a little bit at how the Red Emberz experience from last season has affected you, the players on your team, and the entirety of the Splatoon program at ISU, and how it's kind of shaped your outlook here for Collegiate Splatoon.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I'm very thankful to my team that just really they allow me to be me. Whereas like I'm sure it wouldn't have changed anywhere else, but I'm a little goofy, maybe sometimes too goofy in the best way possible. But they let me be me. But also for the whole team, I mean, as I see it, I feel like some people might know me from my past where I was not on a non-collegiate team. And really, my pet peeve was just finding people, older players, basically, with maturity and stuff. And I found one, but again, it was a lot of the thing that CCA helped with is the community is just great. It's I can't put into words, obviously, how good and how much I've enjoyed my time here. Even past our team, you know, PSU Blue, I've known some of those players for a long time. I should say, I've known Snow for a long time. I mean, and then, but some of these teams, they're just very new and like us, and it's just fun to make new friends, and I guess that's kind of ties along with the Purdue Invitational and why I went to that. But for a whole program, you know, like I said, it's just a club here, which again, nothing wrong with that, but I think our leadership and just the members in general are very proud of where we are. I do know that our top two who were on Red Beak and stuff were like, their goal was to a season 3 goal when they joined. They were in Division 5. Their goal was to have that team. Obviously, they got they didn't see what was coming, but they wanted that team to get to Div 1 someday. So they were very proud of what they have kind of created and kind of Illinois State.
No, it's glad to hear the impact your team has had and the general outlook it's had there at ISU. So moving on to some stuff about Season 5. Cygnus, would you like to follow up and start that discussion?
Yes. So as was said earlier, Red Emberz finished in 3rd place back in Season 4, but now you find yourselves as the top seed within the entire league here in Season 5. So I'd like to ask you, Korona, do you agree with this placement? And has this placement affected any of your team's outlook and mindset during the season, or would you say it's less of a factor overall?
So this is like a question I've thought about like deeply, but like not at all. Like it's kind of hard to say, but like I've thought about it once or twice, but then it's like really going into it. With PSU Blue unfortunately losing Krakenmere, and MSU, I wish those guys unfortunately unable to be in the season this year. I think UCSD Gold and us, I think we're pretty tied, but there. So I guess I would say yes, our placement is pretty correct there. How that has like kind of set our mental. I think we've been pretty good about it because of Season 4. At least how I see it. I'm not sure about our squad, but I assume it's pretty close. We went 2-3 and then played pretty well in playoffs. So at the end of the day, if we drop one, oh well. It's not gonna really affect us, and that might be a negative or a positive, wherever you see it. But I really think that we really don't think about a rating at all. Like maybe the first week we're like, aha, we're number 1, and then we haven't really talked about it since. So we've been pretty reserved and just focused on what is ahead. And really, I think my mentality going into stuff, obviously, with our match against Comet Blasters, is we see UCSD Gold as like the team to beat. And so my mentality is like we're playing these teams like we're trying to beat UCSD Gold. So that's kind of at least my mental going into like Comet Blasters as well. So like, that's kind of how we did it there, and just not thinking teams might not be as strong on paper as us, but you just gotta play your game. And I think a prime example is last season we were the only team who lost to Reef Runners, and they can be a good team. They just
Definitely
had some unfortunate events, so we've been pretty not boasting about it, basically.
Yeah, it's a good thing to keep your kind of recognize that you're there, but still you make sure that you keep yourself humble there and don't underestimate any of your opponents, because like you said, there's a lot of good teams still gunning for that top spot, and you still have to work your way through. So speaking of Red Emberz playing matches, Cygnus, would you like to ask the next question?
Yeah. Likely because of the timing with spring break and everything, Red Emberz has had their first 2 matches of the season rescheduled, and you finally did play your first match this season here in week 3 against the Comet Blasters, which you swept in a clean 4-0. But now looking forward, you guys have 4 matches left to play in 3 weeks. So how has Red Emberz been passing the time over these last 2 weeks, and getting back to topic of your mental game? How have you ensured that you're ready for your late started regular season run after such a long layoff?
This is gonna sound, we haven't really, I'm gonna be honest, we've thought about it, but it's like I still think of it as like a joke, because as like a funny, like, oh, we have to reschedule 2 matches, what is this? I think right now I'm taking it kind of week by week, honestly, but I don't know about the team, of course, but at least for me, I feel like it's just best if we gauntlet it and do them like back to back in a reschedule week. I truly mean that, just because I think that's kind of our troubles. I don't know if I mentioned them earlier or whatnot, but really, at least I should say focus on the topic here, but a lot of us right now, we're very busy. I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no clue how Zola's in our chat right now, because he should be at work. Get back to work, buddy. But nonetheless, we're very busy. Like Cliff has stuff tonight, I'm not sure, and then Vi is very busy as well. So really, our Mondays and then like Friday, Saturday, Sunday is our only open day. But like, I'm pretty active as well. So like, our weekends is just like, we pick a date. So really, we have practice on Monday. And then, like, our main problem from last season was we didn't do a warm-up scrim at all. So that was a big problem. That was a huge problem, and that's kind of how we lost a lot of stuff. Just because we warmed up in, like, SenduQ, but, like, Cliff had some stuff. And, like, 9:30 on a Sunday was, like, the only thing we could, like, plan. So like our big thing is just really, I had not thought about that our reschedules yet. We're just going through and going through our weeks here. We schedule Skyfall, so that's a big W there. And then next week hopefully we get something. But nonetheless, we're very busy, and as long as we get a practice and a warm-up scrim beforehand, I think that's the best we're gonna get, and it gets us into the groove.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah. That's all. That's still all good to hear. That obviously you have to. Another large topic that's been discussed here many times before has been that balance between a student at a college and kind of the
Yeah.
collegiate, the identity as a competitive Splatoon player.
Absolutely.
So obviously there's some give and take, and it's good to hear that
Mhm.
recognize that, and you're still just trying to get around that through the methods you can. So continuing on with discussions of the season, new to this season is the Division 1 wildcard system. And for those of you who are not in the know, there are 2 wildcards available for the teams that finish 3rd place in their groups. And since not all the 3rd place teams are guaranteed a wildcard, who will receive them has been a highly debated topic thus far, and will certainly be as we work to the end of the regular season. As a Division 1 team that is projected to get into the playoffs not through a wild card, what are your thoughts on the system, and which teams do you think are the most likely to receive a wild card for the playoffs this season?
I'll probably do you one better with the wildcard stuff, but starting on what I think about it is it's pretty interesting system, and interesting in like a really good way. I think it incentivizes teams to, I mean, I don't know. It's something very new, and let's be honest, our 2-3 run last season probably would not get us a wild card spot. So it kind of incentivizes teams to show up a little bit more and play a better game, where like a 3-2 might be the barrier, or maybe even probably not 4-1, but maybe even 4-1. You never know. Actually, that's a lie. It can't be 4-1. 3-2, nonetheless. And I've kind of thought about it. I've had a lot of free time here, and I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to give you who I think will make playoffs straightforward, wild card, and you ready for this? Barely misses. I'm telling you. And
boy.
hey, if you're on this list and the barely misses or something, I mean, hopefully this helps you be like, we're going to do better than this.
Be that bit of motivation.
Bit of motivation, please.
Yeah.
So I'll start with Group 1. We should be one of the 2. I'd be pretty disappointed in myself and our kind of, I hope, at least that, if we're not. But again, it could happen. You never know. But I truly think Night Sharks are pretty on par here. They should be the second one or the first one, depending on how much we choke. Group 2, I think PSU Blue is already kind of set. I think they got 9 points. They're pretty much set. And then VCU, I love their name. The Big Fat Sea Cows, right? That's W
Yes.
name. I love the name change. You guys rock. Group 3 is kind of hard. Easy but hard at the same time. Obviously, I think UCSD, I always get them mixed up, sorry guys. UCSD Gold, obviously already clinched. They're probably the team to beat. This is kind of hard because I have 3 teams I truly think could take the second spot. But I'm going to give it to Oklahoma University, their Academy A there. They beat Banana Split. That's kind of how I'm basing it off of right now, with that victory there. And then our wild card, I truly think that these guys could. They lost one. I think they lost in Night Sharks. They lost to somebody in our group. But the Long Beach Gold team, apparently Zolo and our backliner Love Trial was in comms with them, and their comms are crazy good. So they are like something we've been looking out for, because the comms are better than ours, apparently. So, but I have them in a wild card there just because I think they're 2-1 right now. And then Banana Split, I have in wild card as well. Again, this, and I'll say it now, Drexel, them and Drexel, it's going to be a battle of just who's better. And I have Drexel right now and barely missed. But really, at the end of the day, any of those 3 can make it. It's just who's the better team. I have 2 other ones, and I think this is I apologize. Let me just go through it real quick and then you can comment. I have two
Oh, you're
more
good,
and
you're
a
good.
barely miss.
You good?
I think the GMU Patriots are barely gonna miss here. Not by a lot. They're not that bad a team. I believe they beat their other Div 2 last season counterparts, IVC and somebody else. I forgot. I'm sorry, guys. But they beat both of them. Unfortunate 0-4 to PSU Blue, but nonetheless, they had a good season. They're having a good season right now. 2-1. Honestly, they could get in as well if Oklahoma University. It's either or. And then last, this is a big one. I think Skyfall is gonna barely miss. I truly believe that, and I hope I don't bite my words, because that's our group. All right, go ahead.
I was about to say you still have to play that match too, so be wary.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you hear it here. Those are Korona Beer's own thoughts here. Very interesting about the
Quote it.
banana split and the direct stuff, because that match is happening this week actually too.
Oh,
So
you go.
that'll be interesting with you. But yeah, I mean, all those sound pretty solid, but there's obviously still time for teams to contest some
Lots
of
of
those
time.
thoughts there and see
Yeah.
how those things go. But very curious to see kind of your thoughts on the division again, because you guys have not played that much, so you kind of have that
Mm-mm.
advantage of seeing how everything else has developed already. But again, really great to hear your thoughts and how you think playoffs will shape up. So Cygnus, would you like to move on to our next part about the future weeks?
You're looking forward at the future. We kind of talked about this a bit already, but with those reschedules, you have 4 matches to complete in 3 weeks. So for those rescheduled matches, you said earlier you kind of preferred to do them like all at once, gauntlet style, right?
I did say that
Yeah.
mostly. There was like an ounce of me that was like, should we do? Well, I was a little late, I guess, but it was like early last week, maybe like Sunday or Monday, talking to who do we play? Comment Blasters. Shout out to them, they are great. But really, it was, I think in my head, it was like, if they have to reschedule, we might have to do one of the matches for week 3, like our reschedules. So I guess in that case, I did think about doing it, but it turned out really that we got to play our game. So yeah, for reschedules, it probably unless something happens internally where some people can't play a weekend or something, whatnot, it probably will be that last reschedule week, both matches. I kind of kid about gauntlet style, but if it works, it works. I mean, again, kind of ties into we're very busy.
Yeah.
Zola works Saturdays, Sundays. Cliff has a lot of stuff because he's the GOAT. And then I'm here and there in the weekend, so we're fairly busy. So we'll really see what happens. But I'd assume a reschedule week double match.
Yeah, two matches isn't awful to fit into that reschedule week.
Yeah.
But do be wary of gauntlets, because historically gauntlets have not gone great here in the CCA. I'm not sure if you're aware of this story, but back in season 3, you had the Florida Golf Course University Thunderbirds having all 5 of their matches rescheduled to do in a 1 week time. Which ultimately they had to forfeit a game, which gave them a tough semifinals match. They got eliminated. But obviously you only have 2 matches instead of 5, so that should be a lot easier to manage than that. But kind of wrapping up this interview, kind of looking to the remaining weeks left here in the regular season and to most likely Division 1 playoffs. There's sure to be some quite a lot of high octane matches left for Red Emberz. So I wanted to ask, out of all the other opponents in Division 1, what teams are you most looking forward to playing against this season? And are there any grudge matches that started in season 4 that you want to clear out again?
I mean, I wouldn't say any grudge matches here. As I was saying, the community is great. So, I mean, we don't. We are very loving here, but teams we want to play in general, I would say, as well, one of them are definitely playoffs, and what I like to say, hashtag we want gold, and that's not to be a jerk. That just means we want to play you guys because you are the best team here, and we missed you in entrance exam. We are not in your group because, well, you are. What were they seeded? 2 or 3? Well, they were seeded top 3. And so we really want to face them again because they are good. So that's why hashtag we want gold. I don't know. I'm just goofy like that. That's part of the goofy shenanigans I do. I also said banana split. Those guys were really sweet, and again, we played them a lot last time, and third place match, and I felt bad because, well, it's just the mental was just gone, and so that third place match, if you think about it, we took 3 off PSU Blue. We're kind of hyped, and they didn't take anything off of MSU, so the mental is just gone, and so that wasn't truly a real match. And then really when we played them in the regular season, we didn't do a warm-up scrim and we trolled with comps. Actually, the biggest troll was me playing V-Shot. Never do that again. We did, yeah, it was kind of ugly, and I've exclusively been on. I looked at stats, and I think this includes entrance exams, so that maybe it's a little high, but I have a 73% win rate with Brush. That's kind of high. So, nonetheless, what was I getting into? Oh yeah, Banana Split. Those guys are sweet. Love those guys, and hopefully they make the playoffs. I really hope so. I don't know how it works, but I guess there's potential we play them too first round. So hope for that. And then my last one was just in general. Again, it's kind of history with Illinois State that we wanted to face off against Coastal Squid Surge. Again, unfortunate they dropped there, but hopefully in the future we do those guys and practice or have an actual match, hopefully, in the future. I think that's my big 3 going into that. So PSU Blue, we've practiced a lot with them a lot, so those guys are great, but we've practiced with them and played them a lot, so these are the new faces, I guess you could say.
Well, that's a great lineup of new faces. A lot of great teams there, and a lot of exhilarating, exciting matches to come. So that concludes what we had for to discuss with you. Thank you so much for joining us. That was fantastic to hear your perspective as a Division 1 player and on everything. So wrapping up, is there anything you would like to plug? Any Twitters, Twitches, anything of that nature?
Yeah, you guys on Twitter.com, you can follow me at Korona. There is an O in there. _ beer. But if you don't like Cubs baseball, I wouldn't do that. Because I post a little too much. But besides that's everything for me.
Fantastic. Once again, thank you so much for having. Thank you so much for letting us have you on tonight. So thank you.
Of course. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So, well, you heard it here. That was our lovely interview with Korona Beer from Red Emberz. Exhilarating answers. Very excited to see more from their team this season and see where Division 1 playoffs will take them for the future. So, I think it's about time that we start our Week 4 match preview. So, as I alluded to earlier, things are really starting to heat up, as there's only 2 more weeks of the regular season left for teams. And you're starting to see a lot of teams be forced into do-or-die situations where they need to win, or else their chances of a playoff run are basically 0. That being said, there's still some time left to falter a little bit. So, going forward, it's going to be very interesting to keep our eyes on teams and to consider the idea of playoff eligibility for future candidacies. So let's start, as we always do, with Division 6. And Cygnus, would you like to start us off with our Division 6 preview blitz?
Yes, absolutely. Looking ahead here, looking ahead here at Week 4 in Division 6, we have the Sun God Squad from UCSD up against NYU's Tennis Missile Crisis. We also have the NCCS Llamas against CSULB Blue, and Gator Eats Squid from Florida goes up against Bradley University's Let's Get Kraken. Love both of those names, by the way.
There's always great names from some of the second teams
Yeah.
from some universities, or just in general too. I'm pretty sure Omazen didn't do tier lists for the names, but he did do one for the logos, which somewhat counts. But getting more back on point here, our key match for Week 4 in Division 6 is the Coyotes Blue versus Costa Booyah Basins. So Coyotes Blues and Coastal Booyah Basins are technically both only have one win at this moment. So this could really speak to there being quite an equal match between them. That being said, Coyote Blues' win was against the Disciples of COD, and the Disciples of COD had previously swept Coastal Booyah Basins. If the Basins were to win over Coyotes, this could possibly steal a playoff spot from Coyotes and add some further complication to their group. So some interesting stuff from both these teams. Both being from some relatively new established collegiate programs as well. So some good stuff in Division 6. Moving on to Division 5, I will be handling the preview blitz here, and we're first going to start with MS&T Splatoon Gold versus DePaul's Anarcho Rainbow. Both teams we mentioned earlier in the preview. Therefore, you know that this is going to be a hype match and have a lot of standings for their group. We then have Semel Cephalopods Gold versus Drexel Gold Splatoon. Gold having, I believe, what was their first match win since the start of this academic year last week. Let's see if they can keep it up this week. Then we have Clark Cloy, hashtag Worcester Wednesday, versus A-State Black. A-State Black tries their hand at the leader of their group, and Clark Cloy, if they win this, will guarantee them the top spot in their group. And I don't think they've dropped a game yet, if my memory serves me correct. Again, hashtag Worcester Wednesday. Love to see the Worcester teams win. Besides that point, Cygnus, would you like to take the key match for Division 5?
Yeah, our key match in Division 5 is the Table Turp Troop going up against CSUDH Ivory. These are the two undefeated teams in Group 2, and they are squaring off, meaning only one undefeated team is going to be left standing in that group. And the Table Turp Troop has their final chance here to prevent Ivory from clinching a playoff spot, and a win would do wonders for them, because especially when you look at the standings in their group. And if you're interested in seeing Ivory's perspective on this, go ahead and check out the interview we conducted with them over on the CCA YouTube channel.
That is right. We were supposed to interview Ivory live last week. That unfortunately got postponed. So instead, we conducted an interview with them over the weekend, and that will go live on our YouTube soon. We'll talk more about that a little bit later, but obviously, you might as well mention that when we're speaking about Ivory here too. Cygnus, would you like to cover Div 4 preview blitz, please?
Yes, going into Div 4, some notable games we have coming up includes Flatscad Orange going against Arc Halley. Also, we have Champlain Seafoam going against C Sharp Major, and Nautical versus Crimson Calamari is one more match to send you off to. Definitely looking forward to all three of those. And Krona, you can handle the key match here for Division 4.
Indeed. We have the clash of the Division 4 Group 4 Titans with Farmingdale Esports versus UGA Red, with both sides having a perfect record in terms of set wins so far. Farmingdale has only dropped 5 games in total, those being across their matches against Moravian and Siberian, and while UGA Red has only dropped 3, and that was only against MSU's Casual Conches. So there's a lot of stuff on the stakes for both these teams, both of them doing very well in their group, and this could very much be the match that decides the seeding for playoffs. So it is going to be very exciting to watch these two teams duke it out. So interesting stuff as always from Div 4. Moving on to Division 3, let me hit you with the preview blitz. Our first match I want to talk about is UNM Esports versus Griff Inc. And the question here is, can Griff Inc. stop UMN Esports' dominance in Group 3 with the previous Division 5 winner, UMN Esports, currently sitting at 3-0 in leading their group. We then have Bull Sharks Blackticks versus Utopia Title Krakens. And this is an absolutely pivotal match for playoff eligibility in Group 4, as these two teams, plus another being Golden Barracudas, are basically all fighting for those top 2 spots. So you can see the loser here just barely miss out on the Division 3 playoffs. And then finally, we have everyone's favorite DePaul's Inks 2 versus the KSU Wild Sharks in Group 1, fighting for some middle positions in their current standings. Cygnus, would you like to talk about our key match in Division 3?
Yeah, in Division 3, we want to focus on Bradley University's Life Code Bradley Dream being up against Goomies. These are two teams that are coming off 4-0 sweeps in their Week 3 matches, looking to keep their playoff spots at the top of their group. We have Bradley, who's looking to stay undefeated against the current number 1 seed in the group, while Goomies are looking to make up for the loss they took against UNM Esports in Week 2. This match will be very exciting to see, and I highly recommend you tune in, as the winner is likely to guarantee a playoff spot in Division 3.
Well, you should have said tuned in, because this match literally just happened right before the recording of this episode. It was streamed on Neptune's channel, and I believe the result was Goomies swept Life Could Bradley Dream, which again still makes this match important, as Goomies are basically guaranteed themselves the second spot in their group. Don't quote me on that, but things are very likely. Again, very pivotal match in the group and for the division as a whole. Moving on to Division 2, let me go through the preview blitz. A lot to discuss here. Division 2 is, well, biasly my favorite division to watch. But first we have the RIT Tiger Sharks versus Champlain Cerulean. RIT has had a rough 2 weeks, losing 2 Game 7s in a row. So the question here is, can they bounce back and try to keep their playoff hopes alive with a win over Champlain? Next we have Death Roll versus Splat Scad. We have 2 powerhouse players in Division 2 facing off this week, with Nitro from Death Roll and Asfuz from Scad Black duking it out in this match. So some high octane matchups certainly happening there. And then finally for the Blitz, we have UCS Sports Navy versus 4 in a Krillion. MSU just beat Cream Corner in Game 7 last week, who dealt Navy their only loss so far. And the question that's on my mind is there any chance there'll be a 3-way circle of suck from Game 7s here from this match? So again, a lot of great stuff happening in Div 2. Cygnus, would you like to cover the key match here?
Yes, here in Division 2, we're looking at the Huskies Splatsville Knights Gold facing off against Springfield, Ohio. These are 2 well-known powerhouses within the CCA who are duking it out in Week 4. And back in CCA League Season 3, both of these teams actually used to be in Division 1. Just adding to the notoriety here, this match. This is the Huskies' second game of the season, and Springfield, Ohio is very much hoping for a win here after they faltered against Death Roll 2 weeks back. So definitely another one to keep an eye on.
Indeed. Let's move on to the top division in the CCA, that being our Division 1. Cygnus, would you like to talk about our 3 matches for the Blitz preview?
Yes, definitely. Starting off in Division 1, we have what should be a very fun match between Drexel Dragon Splatoon and EAUCD Banana Split. Can Drexel stall Banana Split's bounce back and prevent them from reaching a possible wildcard spot? Will be interesting to see that. And next up, ISU Red Emberz and our interview guest this week, Korona Beers, are going to be facing off against MTSU Skyfall, with Skyfall looking to bounce back against the CCA's number 1 seed here. And last but not least, the H-Town Rebels are squaring off with IVC Diamond Rays, with both of these scrappy teams looking for their first victories of the season. Handing it off to you now, Krona, for our Division 1 key match.
Yes, there's a lot of great matches happening in Division 1 this week, but probably the most impactful for the entirety of the playoff run will be the GMU Patriots versus VCU's Big Fat Seacouts. After a rough match against PSU Blue, GMU now looks to increase their playoff odds by winning against VCU, the second seed in their groups. As for VCU, they still have yet to drop a single game this season, and the question on everyone's mind is, can they keep it up? Looking at the standings in the group, that being that both these that GMU has only lost to PSU and VCU has still yet to lose a game or a match. A match, both a match and games. Sorry. It seems very likely that this match will be the deciding factor between which team sits in the playoff and the guaranteed playoff range of the second spot in their standings, and which team will have to hope for a wild card decision in the third. So a lot is on the line here. Unfortunately for the larger collegiate community, this match was rescheduled for later in the season. However, there's still a chance that GMU will play. Well, there's still a really good chance that GMU will play VCU this weekend. That is because both of them will be at University of North Carolina Greensburg's 2024 Collegiate Splatoon Invitational this weekend, and these are two of the top two teams competing there. So it's very likely that they will face off in some formats. Will this speak to the result that's later come down the line of the season? We don't know, but still, it's funny to see that despite the fact they rescheduled this match, and it was scheduled for the same weekend as the LAN, these two teams will probably still play each other in some formats.
Should hopefully be a fun preview.
Definitely. I definitely will want to keep my eyes on that bracket come Saturday. If I remember correctly, I believe it's those two plus Coastal, Squid Surf. I know Bobblehead Game is going. The North Carolina Greensburg teams are going as well, and probably a few others I'm missing. But very exciting to see again another collegiate LAN happening, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it on the podcast next weekend. So that concludes our preview for Week 4, and basically concludes this episode. So we listening to Cygnus discuss in pivotal stuff in PCA. Starting a closing bit here, what comes next? Well, we have streams this weekend. On Friday, we will be streaming Drexel Dragons Splatoon versus Banana Split at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the CCA. On Saturday, we will be streaming Division 2's Splat Scad Black versus Death Roll at 8 p.m. EST, and then another Division 2 match of We Aquatic Low Creatures versus Aeronautics at 9 p.m. Then on Sunday, we'll have streams split across two channels. On CCA at 8 p.m. EST, we'll have the NCC Llamas versus Long State Blue in Division 6 at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then at 9 p.m. Eastern, we will have Division 4's Farmingdale Esports versus UGA Red. So that will be great to watch. A lot of those matches I've just said have been stuff that we've mentioned previously in this preview, because they're going to be very exciting and have some pivotal decisions for the standings. Then finally, on Splatoon Tourney at 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll have the Division 3 matchup between Bull Sharks Black Tips and the Golden Barracudas. Actually, I just want to double check that one is right. Nonetheless, like I said, there's going to be some great matches this weekend. A lot of great pivotal collegiate Splatoon to happen. Yes, that should be Utopia Title Kraken, I believe. Unless it's Wave Riders and Girl Barracuda. Okay, yes. No worries. Yes, so that would be Bull Sharks Black Tips versus the Utopia Title Krakens, 8 p.m. EST Division 3 on Splatoon 30. Whew. Okay. As for the podcast ourselves, as we previously mentioned, podcast episode 13 was supposed to air last Thursday. That did not happen due to an emergency. Instead, Elixir and DRF were able to record an interview with CHUDH Ivory for the weekend. We are looking to get that published within the next day. So please go look for that on the CCA YouTube. As for podcast episode number 15, it is tentatively scheduled for next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. As always, look for an official announcement come Tuesday or Wednesday. Oh boy, that was a lot to cover there for closing. But we're all through it now. So, kind of fully wrapping things up, Cygnus, is there anywhere people can find you or anything like to plug at this moment?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at CygnusX1018, and under the same tag, I can be found. I'm active on Discord. I'm in various Splatoon Discord servers, including here at the CCA. You can reach out to me anytime. I'll always be happy to chat.
Great. You can find me at comrade_Korona. That is Korona with only one O. And you can probably find me at some point on Splatoon Tourney this weekend on Saturday, as they stream the LAN in Boston, which I will be there as well. I know that a few collegiate players will be there, mainly all the WPI people and some of the Dartmouth people. So if you're there, feel free to say hi to me. But yeah, wrapping up. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We hope you find it insightful and enjoyable. I disagree with Krona Beer's statement there that 2 O's are better than 1. And have a nice night, everyone.
Yes, good night.